A very quick note before the episode starts. As I was editing, and I've just started doing that in my Wonder Woman pyjamas, I've noticed that I've got face powder all over the front of my dress. So enjoy that little view of messiness that I don't think was visible in real life. No one mentioned it to me, as I likely spent the whole day with that mess on myself. But anyway, enjoy. It becomes less noticeable after the first couple of minutes, but yeah, haha. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 80 of the YarnderWoman podcast. My name is Melinda. You can find me as YarnderWoman on Instagram and Ravelry, and we also have a Ravelry group called the YarnderWoman podcast. You can find show notes to all of the things I talk about in this episode, if I can talk about them and get my words out, at www.yarnderwoman.blogspot.com.au. Thank you so much for joining me, as again, it has been a while between episodes. Life, fatigue from my arthritis has gotten in the way between me coming to you with my many and varied knitting projects, but I'm very glad to be with you now, and I hope you will enjoy what I've got to show you, because I've got quite a few things. So we'll proceed. I'll quickly show you my brooch rather than doing a full broaching the subject. Isn't she pretty? So this one is from Erstwilder, a company on the other side of Australia, and they did sort of a Spanish Fiesta range. And it was quite appropriate because around the same time, both my friend Jill, who does the Skate Enable podcast, and Jen from Down Cellar Studio, both separately went to Barcelona. So I had a bit of a Spanish theme going with my purchases and my podcast listening. So without further ado, let us go into our finished object section, because I've got something special to show you. It's the Melinda shawl. So we have a shawl cowl going on at the moment for the Melinda shawl. Oh look, Smudge is joining us. Hello darling. Hi, you're going to sit on the show notes, are you? No, I'm going to go over there. He's got a little cushion he can sit on. Well, that's good. It's about 5:30 in the morning here, so he was excited to see me up, but he's not sure if he wants to. There we go. No, he's moving around. If you hear him moving, that's what's happening. Yes, he's excited to see me up, but he's not sure that he's quite ready to be awake himself yet, so we'll see how he goes. Back to it. We have a knit along going for this shawl, the Melinda shawl, which is designed by Vicky Zakanowicz, who is Devixter Designs, and she designed this shawl in my honour. I am so thrilled. And this is it. This is my first finished object for today. Isn't it gorgeous? So the yarn I used, I'll hold it up so you can see there's little speckles throughout. It's a dark blue, and there's sort of some yellow speckles, but they're harder to see. But this yarn is called Wonder Woman's Costume. Best name ever. This is by Vilaine Yarns over in France, and I could not find the tag, I'm sorry. Love it. Love the yarn, love the project. Could not recommend this pattern enough. I really hope you join us for the cowl. I've got another version of the shawl to show you when we talk about the cowl. But in terms of my experience of knitting the pattern, so easy. As you can see, now this is a free pattern on Ravelry, for free forever. As you can see, there's garter stitch sections and there's an eyelet lace section, and for such a sort of I was going to say complex, but it's not a complex look, but it's, you know, a very intricate, involved look. There's really only one row every so often that where you do the eyelets that it's anything beyond just a knit stitch. So it's really clever design, very simple, and the way the edges turn out, there's not like, you know, a knitted, you know, knit to yarn over, as some shawls have, where you get sort of an edge border. That's the word I'm looking for. So it ends up quite sort of flat and straight, and therefore the whole drape is just really nice. That's not to say shawls with a knitted border or anything don't hang straight. I'm just trying to describe what I mean. And yeah, the yarn I used is quite a tightly plied yarn. I'm not sure if you can be able to see, but you can see here in the eyelets, maybe. So yeah, quite tightly plied, and I used a 4mm needle when the pattern calls for a 3.5. So I had a bigger needle and a thinner yarn, thinner in terms of, you know, tighter. So same gauge of yarn, both fingering, but a tighter spin to it. So the drape is just gorgeous and it's wonderful. And today is going to be my first day of wearing it when I go out later to work. So happy with this finished object. Just A, the object is wonderful, and B, the pattern was made for me, which is just so special. And yeah, I'll talk more about it when we get to our knit along talk, but I highly recommend that you join us. 2 hats for the next finished object. If you've seen recent episodes, you know I can't go around without making hats. So this is sort of a made up pattern where I do a rolled brim and a 3 needle bind off, and this one has been blocked whereas this one hasn't, so I'll talk about this one first. This is actually 3 different colorways of Felice yarn by Knit Picks, and it was initially going to be to just use up some scraps, but I didn't end up getting far enough with them. So the first one finishes here, and I think the second one there, maybe, yes. And then this one here is was actually from a whole new ball. So let me see if I can remember the colors. I think Foxglove. This is one I wasn't too sure about. It's maybe, it's not Wizard. Wizard's got more green in it. Anyway, it'll be linked in Ravelry, or actually maybe it won't be because I don't know that I figured it out. But anyway, if you're really desperate, I'll try and find it for you. But I don't think it's one you can get anymore, or at the moment, so, because Felice, they tend to, they being Knit Picks, you know, bring a whole lot of colours out, then they sell them out, and then there's none available for a while, so, and it's generally different colourways each time. But this one was one of the more recent colourways, and I think that was called Ice Cream Truck, and it's these pretty pink. Hello. I've just had to change to recording on the iPad rather than the camera because the camera battery died. And actually the whole time I was recording, I had the flashing camera, battery symbol going at me. So yes, if I sounded a little flustered or rushed in the earlier segments, that's why I was trying to beat the battery. Now you might say, why didn't you charge the battery, Melinda? Well, I only have one battery, so I didn't have time to sit and wait for that to finish charging. Why didn't you charge it beforehand? Because I can't find the charger, not because of where I put it, where someone else in the house has put it. Here we are, we can have a in-episode comparison between the camera footage and the iPad footage. Isn't that exciting? Science experiments, yay! Anyway, back to this hat. I don't think there's too much more to say. It was, yeah, I think it turned out really nicely with the 3 colourways. I think that gives it a bit of interest. I've got a few ends to weave in, obviously from where the different colourways have ended, but that's fine. I think somewhere along, yeah, here in this blue, I was actually knitting on this when we were at the dog park, and I had to sort of hurriedly put my knitting away as, you know, either my dog or another dog was coming up and I had to do something, and it actually got caught in the zip, so after a little bit of struggling I just cut it and started again, which is fine. What's one more end? So yes, there's that one, and as I said, I have this one as well, which is not blocked. This is very fun. This green is Knit Picks Stroll, might be the pea pod colourway, I think. And then this fun one is yarn I actually dyed myself with food colouring with my niece and nephew. A couple of years ago, we got the sock blanks that you can get from Knit Picks, or Knit Picks again. And yeah, we just went to town with some food colouring. I knit socks for them at that time for Christmas out of the ones that they'd done, and this was the leftovers of what I had of mine, which I think I had knit socks for myself out of, can't remember. And I was just going to keep going till I used up all the sock blank yarn, but I think I still had a teeny little ball left because I just decided it was big enough by that point. But yes, talking about lots of ends. At first I started carrying the yarn up, I think in the earlier parts of the hat. Who knows where that was? Anyway, it was somewhere. Yes, I was carrying it up, but then when I started getting the bigger gaps between, and I just couldn't be bothered anymore, so I just cut and re-knit. So I'll weave those in, that's okay. What I do is knit a few stitches, when I change the yarn, knit a few stitches where both are being held together, and that keeps it in place a bit better and makes the weaving in less, like you don't have to be as fiddly with it because it's already had some time woven in together. But yes, I am looking forward to blocking that because I think it'll look even better, because at the moment it's a little bit wibbly wobbly because it's come out of the sock blank, which is fine because, you know, it's going to get blocked. But yes, very happy with that one. It was good fun to do, actually, just changing the yarns, and it was fun seeing how this one came out as well. So this one also doesn't have ends woven in, but that's okay. They can probably weave some in, but they can also be part of the fun. This is what's called a Twiddle muff, and muff being, you know, as you can put your hands in here, or you can have it on one arm. And this is going to be for my mum, YarnderWoman. So a twiddle muff is good for people who have Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia, because what they can do is have it with them and just feel all the different textures and twiddling or fiddling with different things on it. So the knitting part is done, but then I've also got a whole lot of accoutrements to sew on. So I'll show you those in a sec. First I'll tell you about the knitting. So these are her colours, or the pinks and purples. She also loves blues as well. And I just knit randomly. There's a pattern for the twiddle muffs. There's a couple that are free on Ravelry. But I think I had to go down in numbers of stitches. It was just too big, and it was obviously just a gauge thing. It's not really, you know, that big a deal. You can make them as big or small as you like. But we'll start with here. So I cast on and I did some ribbing. This is the dark purple, is 2 strands of Knit Picks Shine, I believe it's called. So it's what's it got in it? I think it's cotton and modal, which is a fibre made out of wood. There might be wool in it, I'm not sure. It'll be linked. It definitely has the modal, the wood fibre in it, so that's what gives it a bit of a shine to it. But you can see this thin pink here. This was a bright pink mohair. Oh, here we go. Da-da! So a mohair lace. So just to give it a bit of fluff, and I think it looks really nice against that dark purple thicker yarn, because it really stands out, and like a bit of a seam of pink going through it, which I think is really fun. So yes, I did that for a few rows and then of ribbing, and then I think I brought in, oh no, I've gone straight into it. I was going to say I think I did this fuzzy one in ribbing, but that's just straight in. I think I did some rounds of knits and pearls in this section with holding the purple with the fuzzy yarn. Then I swapped over to some Knit Picks Felici worsted here. So again, it was just a good way to use up some scraps. So I used up some of that. Then that was transitioning. So Felici is a striped yarn, and I was holding 2 ends of the little ball that I had left. So in this section, you can see there's pink and grey in that stitch. Whereas here, it ended up going where I just ended up coincidentally with 2 purple strands together. So I just did some garter knit pearl there, swapped over to this one, which I think is a cotton yarn. I think that's a Knit Picks one as well. I'm not sponsored by Knit Picks at all, trust me. I just happen to have a lot of it. So that's a 100% cotton yarn. I think the colourway was Tea Rose. And then this one, this I think Mum is going to love the best. This I got from Spotlight, which is one of the big box stores here in Perth, or in Australia. And it's just fur. It's so fluffy, or synthetic, not animal fur. But yeah, she's gonna love that because the way it's knit, it's also fluffy inside, which means it's gonna feel lovely. What I was actually finding was, depending on if you did a knit or a purl stitch, you got more fuzz or fluff. And I actually, in this section, ended up turning the project inside out because I was finding there was more fluff coming through on the purl side. So yeah, you can see there quite well. That's the knit side. You know, there's some there, but there's a lot more on the purl side, and I suppose that's just because the yarn is more forward. So that was really interesting to play around with, because I don't usually use these kinds of eyelash yarn. So it was really fun to play around with how best to show them for the effect of both visually and the touch. So that was interesting. So I did the same here. I think I did purl stitching. A little bit harder to tell because it's still very fluffy on the inside as well. But yes, it was more fluffy. Then I went back to the eyelash yarn, but here I just held it on its own. So it's just a little bit different. This one's with the yarn underneath, so different texture again. Then I went back to the Felici yarn for the rest of this section. And here I did some eyelets, so just knit two together, yarn over it just around, because I'm going to weave some ribbon through there. And then I did ribbing again, holding that mohair. You can't see it as well here, but that's okay. It just gives it a nice fuzz. Trust me, there's a fuzz. And then I bound off with Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off to just give it a good stretch to it along that way. So the accoutrements that I got, accoutrement, I can't speak French, so we'll say it the Australian way, accoutrements. And they're all tangled, but I got some very pale pink, you know, pearl type beads. This I think Mum is going to love. This is right up her alley. Beautiful purple with little crystals. Some pink teddy buttons and some ribbons. This one is like a solid pink satin, and this is more like a gauzy, like see-through. And so I will just be sewing ribbon, buttons, bits all over it. I was thinking at the end here, because this is the first end, and I think I actually reduced stitches part way along the way as well. But this was, I think, just broader, but it doesn't matter because that can kind of go on the upper part of the arm. You can see on me there's still a bit of loose. It's not like it has to fit snug, but you know, I don't want it to fall off. Not that she's up and walking around all that much anyway, except when, you know, people are taking her around places. It'll be more for when she's just sitting, she can have it on her arm, or just, you know, hold it on her lap, anything like that. But what I was thinking is I could maybe weave some ribbon through the stitching and then tighten it a bit, and that way it could just, you know, could tie it with a bow just to bring that end in a little bit, but we'll see. I'll try it on her and see how she goes. But I might thread the pearls maybe through the eyelets, maybe. We'll see. I'm going to play around with it. I've got the ribbon as well. But you can see I can, like, not that whole piece, but, you know, I can loop bits on. So it's more all about different textures and different feelings and noises. Oh, I've also got some beads I didn't bring over. Now wondering where I put them because I bought them at a different time. But they're alphabet beads. So I'm also going to put on there, like string them on, so it'll say Kathy and her room number. And that way that'll also be something for her to feel, but it will have her name on it. And that way, as I've mentioned before, things go walkabout in the dementia nursing home because that's just what happens. That's fine. So I completely understand things go walkabout, but I would like it to be able to come back to Mum. So part of the tactile fun will be those beads, but it will also be a serve a purpose of making sure it can come back with her name on it. So I'm so happy with how that turned out. Mum is just going to love it. So I think I should be able to get all that done during this week and give it to her next weekend. So I will be sure to do some filming and show you when she receives it. Before we start works in progress, have a look at my Wonder Woman mug. Very cool. Plus, oh, I haven't shown you this bangle. Excuse me a moment. I got this years and years and years ago, so I could not tell you where from, but it's a knitting needle that's been made into a bangle. So it's the, I think, is that Pony brand? I think it's a 3mm metal red one. So yes, I don't tend to wear my bangles very much because going to work when I'm typing, they get in my way. But today's the day. I can always take it off later. First work in progress. This is my Grotine shawl, and that is a design by Caroline Dick. And here's what I've got so far. Not too far, but oh, it's so pretty. I love how it's turning out. So this is a linen stitch pattern. Sorry, my needles are a bit heavy, so it's weighing me down. There we go. So it's a linen stitch. This is just to show me the front of my work. Now that I've been doing it a little bit, I can tell visually, but it was just there, so it's staying there. Oh, I love how the colours are turning out. So linen stitch is a little bit more fiddly than just doing a normal knit stitch, but it's quite simple. But it gives this wonderful, really flat fabric because it's more woven like linen, and it's great for variegated yarns, as you can see, because when the different parts of the stitching is happening, different colours show up in different sections. And if you look at the back, it looks really cool as well in a totally different way. But see how the different colours play. Oh, love it. I've been wanting to do a linen stitch shawl for a while because way back when I first started knitting, properly, as I don't mean any knitting's improper, I just mean knitting obsessed, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And yes, I knit my mum some socks in a linen stitch cuff. I think I got the pattern from Blue Moon Fibre Arts, I think, and this is actually Blue Moon Fibre Arts yarn. So it's the Socks That Rock base in the lightweights, the thinnest one. So I think they have 3 different weights of that base. And yeah, back when I was first getting knitting obsessed, Blue Moon Fibre Arts were one of the first dyes I ever bought for because I was reading a lot of Stephanie Pearl McPhee, the Yarn Harlots, blog and her books, and I think she is quite good friends with them. I'm not sure what the relationship is, but she mentioned it a lot, and because I was just starting out, just finding where you could get yarn, I bought a few things from there, and that pattern was from them and the yarn was from them. So that yarn was called Frankenhen, I think, and then this one that I'm getting with is hen pecked, so both hen colours. So when I was deciding to cast on this Grotine shawl, this is the designer here, Caroline Dick, and when I was deciding to cast it on, I wanted some help choosing which hen yarn to use, so I actually put it on up on Instagram, and hen pecked was the winner. So here is the vote, just so you can tell. That was good fun. Thank you to everyone who voted. So this is the yarn here. So it's purple, orange, red, grey. I've actually called this project my hen-pecked slaw salad, I think, something like that, because when I was winding it, I've hand-wound it. And the reason I'm doing a lot of hand winding lately, or actually exclusively lately, is because getting out my ball and swift just seem overwhelming from a fatigue point of view, but also the dining table we have now, which is from my mum's house, I think it's too thick for my swift to hook onto, and I'm yet to find another location. I'm pretty sure Damien, my partner's work desk, can fit it, but surprise, surprise, he's often working on it. So I've just been hand winding. That does actually hurt my hands a lot after a while, and I have to stop, but that's fine, it's no problem. But yes, when I was winding it, the thin pieces of it sort of reminded me of like carrot and beetroot and purple cabbage, things like that, because I've been making a lot of like salads and coleslaw and things like that. So it reminded me, and yeah, so anyway, that's why it's called that. If you go to my Ravelry thread, that was a long story. Because yes, all details for my projects are linked in my, or are part of my Ravelry project page, because I do like to keep that up to date, so I can record how much I'm using and what everything is, all my notes, that if I want to refer back, but they're also there for anyone else who wants to refer. So we went with henpecked, and initially, as I said, I'd been wanting to do a linen stitch pattern because I knew that this yarn base and those colours looked really nice in linen stitch. And I think there was a pattern called Clincher, I think, is a shawl, and it's got little loopy bits and you can tuck it in, but I think that's linen stitch. Could be wrong, but I think it is. I had been thinking of that, but then in seeing Caroline, make sure I don't show you the pattern page, following Caroline on Instagram, and I saw she was having her Grow Teen knit along, and what struck me as well as it being a great pattern is that 100% of the proceeds from the sale of this pattern, and excuse me how I read it, I want to make sure I get it right, directly go from Caroline to the charity True North Aid, which is a Canadian charity committed to serving Northern Indigenous communities in Canada with practical humanitarian support. So Caroline is a First Nations person in Canada, so this is a way of supporting her community, but the broader community, because, as it says at the top here, more than 60% of Indigenous children in Canada live below the poverty line. On average, at any one time, 120 First Nations communities in Canada do not have access to clean drinking water. Unfortunately, that's the case for a lot of Indigenous communities here in Australia, and I think Indigenous populations around the world. Yeah, really tragic result of colonialism. So yes, I was happy to make a very small contribution to that by purchasing this wonderful pattern. I think Caroline has already been able to donate several $100s, maybe even a couple of thousand. I'm not sure. It'll be in her Instagram, and I'll make sure I can try and get that information for you, just give an update. But yes, lots of support of the pattern so far. So I really encourage you, if you're interested in supporting that charity and or knitting a great project, to go and get yourself a copy. So there's a 4-row repeat, and once I'd done it for a little while, I knew that I would get the hang of it and be able to read my knitting, which I can now, which is good. So yeah, at the beginning I was like, wait, which row am I on? Just because that was me not, in the rhythm yet. It's very well written and very simple, but very effective. So I was a couple of times I had to rip back, once because despite having this on to show me the front and back, I had thought I was on the opposite. So I'd done either two right side or two wrong side rows in a row. So, I'd done the wrong one on the wrong side. And I was looking at it and it was sort of puckering a little bit in one row, and I kept looking and looking, going, well, clearly something's wrong. Let's analyse. This was very late at night. And then I realised what I'd done and I ripped back, kept going, realised then I hadn't ripped back the naughty row, ripped back again. It's all smooth sailing. And then the other time, so all these things are to do with me, nothing to do with the pattern. The other time, I think I'd had like maybe a week or so between knitting it, and I was at a cafe, I was having breakfast for my friend's birthday, and before the other guests arrived, I was just knitting along, and I did, quite a bit, but it's not too wide yet, so it's fine. And I was picking it up and it sort of looked like it was, I think maybe it was this side, it looked like it was pulling in that direction, and I thought, oh, it's just these heavy needles, whatever. But then I realised what I'd done is, whichever side it was, instead of decreasing to make the shape, I had been increasing on the wrong side. So you use increases and decreases to make the shape, the asymmetrical shape. And whichever side it was on, I was doing the wrong thing. So instead of leaning in, I'd actually started going out because I'd increased and was making it wider. So I wrote back that again, but that's okay. Because actually this yarn, because it's quite... it is a very tight weave, which is great. It's really, really good to work with. It's a nice texture. that plus the linen pattern, the stitches just kind of sat there, so you can rip out and it's not too much of a problem. So really enjoying this, but because of the way you do linen stitch, I'm not at a point where I can't not look, so I have to look at it. So it's not really something that I can do like during a meeting or a training conference or anything like that. I need to look down, which I don't feel I'm engaging as much. But that's okay. Guess what? I can knit it not in meetings. Miracle. Loving that. And yeah, it's taking me a little while longer just because of, yeah, not being able to do it without looking. But yeah, really recommend that, the Grotine. And because it's henpecked, it's a chicken yarn, I had to put it in a chicken bag. This is by Friday Studios, who is no longer in business, unfortunately, but great chicken bag in my colours, which is awesome. So my next project is very exciting. So that's in my little skein in the big wool Little Red Riding Hood bag. And this pattern is the Snowfall Hat by Françoise Denoy, who is Frenchie. So which is a company owned by Frenchie, who I'm sure many of you know from Instagram. She's been very prominent in the diversity discussion, as has Caroline, the designer of the Grotine as well. But this is the Snowfall Hat. Now, sorry, it's all folded up. So the exciting part of this project, as well as it just being a beautiful pattern, is this was the pattern that Frenchie was actually knitting on when I was able to meet up with her when I visited Japan in 2017. We got together for a coffee and a knit, and she was actually designing this hat. And I'm so excited to finally be able to knit it. I say be able to knit it as in I started knitting it. There's no reason I wasn't able to before, other than, you know, time and life. But this is what I've got so far, and it's all a bit floppy, so bear with me a moment. Oh, look, you can see sparkles. So I've got a sparkly yarn, and there's beads here, and it's on a lacy row. I just don't want to push it off my needles. How pretty is that? I'm so excited about this project. The yarn I'm using is Sweet Georgia in the Cash Luxe Sparkle, or Spark, sorry. And the colourway is Slate. And this is yarn I got for Christmas from my good friend Vicky, who's DeVixter, who designed the Melinda shawl. It's all coming together. And it's a beautiful merino nylon cashmere sparkle. So it's very drapey, very soft. And I did have some issues winding it. I somehow got myself in a tangle. As I mentioned, I haven't been using my ball winder in Swift. I was just doing it on my lap. Well, not on my lap, you know, I was sitting down and I had it looped, but goodness knows what happened. I ended up with 3 different sections. This part is still tangled. I just decided to make a messy skein and deal with that later. In fact, I might give it to my friend Sherilyn, who's Carbon Soup on Instagram. She likes untangling, so Sherilyn, this might be for you. It didn't matter. I knew I didn't need the whole skein for the project, so I just went with it, and after a while just cut and moved on with my life. So I initially started using my Xiaogu double pointed needles, but it's 4.5mm, but a fingering weight yarn, so it's quite light, and I was finding even though these aren't too heavy, they were making the knitting a bit, you know, not difficult, but the weight was too much to make it even. So I've swapped over to wooden needles, and they're much lighter, and that's going a lot better. So as I mentioned, there's beads. There we go. Oh, go back. Just here every so often. And the ones I've used are a black with a silver lining. Oh, sorry, a grey with a silver lining, which I think is just perfect for this project. I got them from Fiberific. That's an Australian company, but I'm sure they're Miyuki seed beads to get something similar. I was initially going to use these see-through purple ones. Or are they? No, so I think they're purple lined. Yeah, so see-through beads with purple lining, which are very pretty. And I was going to use these because I had them. I already had these. I've got these and some other purples somewhere in the house because a few years ago I knit the Hogwarts Express shawl, which you do an owl cable and you put little beads on for the eyes. I knit that for my mum. And so I had several purples because I wasn't sure which one I was going to use for that project. As I said, the other ones are somewhere in the house. I don't know where, but I knew where these were. So that's why I was initially going to use these. And I think they would have been lovely as well. It just would have been a bit of colour rather than a neutral. And that would have been fine. But I was placing an order with Fiberific for some needles. And I got some beads, not thinking about this project. It was actually, I was thinking about for another hat project with beads, or I just thought I'd get some beads. But obviously the universe was looking out for me because when I got them, I thought, aha, perfect for this because the grey, the silver, all matches and that way it sort of keeps it neutral. And I'm really happy with that. As I said, the purple still would have been lovely, but I am very happy with these. And I think you'll be able to see them a lot more when it's finished and blocked out. So that's going really well. So I mentioned I'd done the project where I had to put beads on for the eyes on my mum's shawl. So I think that's the only time I've previously done beading on knitting. And I thought I remembered how to do it, but I thought I'll just do a YouTube check. And then I was like, oh, yep, I'm cool. So I had my pattern out. And off I went. It was going fine. So I used the crochet hook method for this, where I can't remember which video I linked to, but if you just look for crochet hook method beading, you'll be able to find lots of things on YouTube. So you get a teeny tiny little crochet hook, put that through the bead, hook up the yarn, on it goes. So that was going well. I got about halfway around the hat and then realised I was looking at the wrong chart for the beads. So yep, totally my fault, but had to unpick it all out. So because the way the pattern goes, it's a bit hard to see because it's on the fold as well as being photocopied. There's the pattern goes up a few times, so there's two different placements for the beads. So I was looking at the wrong one, but hey, look, it's all practice, isn't it? So I've done that one, and then I think, yeah, see here I've done this garter row. So I'm nearly up to this pattern section again. So I'll be doing some more beading, which was really fun. And I think I want to do more beading on projects. Loving that. So yes, pattern very special, reminds me of Frenchie and catching up with her in person, which is lovely because we've been in touch for years on Instagram before then. So it was lovely to be able to meet in person. And now lovely to have my own project of the pattern she was knitting on. So that is the Snowfall Hat pattern by Frenchie of Aroha Knits. A go-to gift I like to make friends for upcoming babies or babies who have already been born is the Bunny Buddy blankie. It's Bunny Buddy something. Again, it'll be in my project notes. So we're halfway along. So it's a little snuggle cloth thing. And so it's got the little arms and the body, and then I'm on the head here, and then I'll be making ears from there. And you stuff the head. You can see here the way this is knitted, it makes a little pocket, which is really clever. It's a free pattern. So it involves doing purl and slip stitches, and that makes little edges. So that will obviously be open. I've just got my stitches there at the moment. So you stuff the head, and you can do a face, but I like to leave the face blank because that way the child can put their own thoughts and emotions onto their toy. And it's so cute, and I'm really loving this yarn. This is Gnome Acres, who is sadly no longer dying. The chunky gnome, Aaron Wade, and it was a Halloween colourway, Trick or Treat. And it was really cute. She always puts the born on date, so I got this in 2014 when the yarn was born. And this is for a friend that I worked with when I lived in Japan. He's from the UK and he's back living there now. And he recently had a little girl who loves tigers. So, hence this choice of yarn. I think that's going to be really fun. So it shouldn't take too long. I'm about to start one ear. I actually started yesterday but then got distracted and ended up pulling it out because I think I'd done the same thing of the right and wrong side. Wrong. But that's okay. It won't take too long. So that should be finished by the next time I see you, which will be really good. So from tigers to zebras. This yarn is called Zebra Flare. Grab the tag. It's Paintbox yarn sock, and it's the Zebra Flare colourway. And this is it here. So it's a grey base with red and sort of pinky purple on the colour transitions. I love this yarn. It's so pretty. Such my colours. And I cast this on to knit on during some training I was doing last week. It was a 3-day course. Well, it's 3 out of 5 days. There's another 2 days next month. You can see I had a few dropped stitches, and all I had on me was safety pins, so that's okay. I think I caught that one earlier, but this one, it was several rows, so I will, sorry, I'm not really showing you there. You can see it's a bit gapey, so I will ladder it up and then just tie in the end. I actually cast on another stitch to just keep going. So I got that done. I'm ready for the heel, and I was toying with whether I just kept going with the heel in the training, but I really want to add that additional yarn that Barbara sent me, the lace weight heel reinforcer thread, and I didn't have that with me, so I stopped, and the training was good. It was very interactive, so we're up and down out of our chairs a lot, so it was fine. I wasn't sitting there without knitting for too long. That's in my YarnderWoman bag, which Josie made for me, which is lovely. So yes, heel on that one soon. I'll probably do the heel, and then it can be like a commute project or something that's good for those times when I can just knit without looking in a conference or a meeting or whatever. I'm going to make these my birthday socks. My birthday's in July, so the idea is I just have them ready, and then on my birthday, ooh, new socks. So no rush, because we're in April, though I can't believe we're in April already. But yes, that's those. This project's in a bit of a big bag. How cute are these bunnies? So this is a bag I got. I actually bought it for YarnderWoman, but she doesn't need it now, so I've got it. At the exotic pet vet when we had pet rats, the vet that we used to go to. And I think it was a fundraiser bag. So the part of the proceeds went to an animal rescue place. So cute. And my mum's favourite animal is bunnies. Hence this was very appropriate for her, so it reminds me of her as well. And yes, inside is this giant, very bright, ooh, that's really blowing out, giant project with a giant ball of yarn. And then, excuse me, leaning over, this glaring blow out the camera yellow. Yeah, it's more yellowy. It's looking more green on the screen, like a green tone, but it's definitely like a highlighter yellow, as you can tell from the blowout. So what this is, and I've just started a row, and I did sort of think to myself, you should finish that row to make it easier to show on the podcast. I didn't. That's fine. So this is a blanket that was a project requested by Yarndeniece and Yarndernephew, who they play this great game every day after school. They come home, so they're 9 and 11, where they've got all their toys and they line them up, and they wanted a blanket to put all the toys under when they're, when they're sleeping, when the toys are sleeping. And their favourite colours are yellow and green and blue and purple. So purple and yellow were the winners, because that's sort of Batgirl colours, so I thought I would enjoy knitting those. Batgirl doesn't quite have as fluorescent a yellow, but that's okay. So that's it. This pattern is the Nana's favourite complexion washcloth, I think. So I've used that pattern a lot for blankets or for actual washcloths. But this is the biggest one I've ever done, because it's sort of chunky yarn, and I didn't want it to take too long because, it's a project for toys, which is fine, and it's for my niece and nephew. But, I've got lots of other works in progress, so I wanted it quick. So I'm actually using 12.75mm needles, which I think is a US 17, yep. So that plus the chunky yarn does make it go quite quickly. I've done all of this just sort of over the course of a lazy Sunday. yesterday. I was just sort of knitting away on it, you know, amongst doing, you know, laundry and other tasks. So I think it's going to be very well received because it's nice and squishy. I guess I've just started decreasing. So it's a free pattern. You do it in a diamond. You go out as wide as you want it and then you go back in again. So I've just started decreasing. So this is about, yeah, as long as each edge is going to be. So yeah, quite big, which is good because that way all the toys can be comfortable. They can all sort of be around the edge. I'm not sure where the label is for this one. Both these yarns were from Spotlight, again, the big box store, and they were just luckily in the clearance section, so they're quite cheap. I think this one started out as a 300-gram ball, and it's sort of a chenille type of a yarn. So that's a bit softer. The yellow is a little bit scratchy. I think this is wool though. Yeah, it's 100% wool, but I think it'll be fine once it blocks. And this is Value Ball Italiano. So there you go. Oh, there we go. What is it? Robusta. And oh, it's just got a colour number there. So yeah, that's good fun. Something sort of simple. Simple to do. It's just knit 2, yarn over, knit all the way across, and then decreasing the same way. This will not be a commute project. I don't think I'll be taking that on the train. I could, but it'd be rather cumbersome. So yes, as I said, it didn't take too long, so hopefully that we finish. There's yellow fluff flying everywhere. That should be finished soon, and I can show you. The final work in progress I have to show you is not giant and huge, it's only this much. This is the start of a ritual shawl, and this is the latest pattern by my good friend Mars, who is Hey Brown Berry and has the Hey Brown Berry podcast. And it's a DK weight shawl that has 3 colours, 1, 2, 3, and I cannot wait to knit this. As well as it being designed by a very good friend, it's going to be absolutely beautiful. So I've done my garter stitch tab for the very beginning, and I'll show you the ball of my first colour. Isn't it pretty? This is from Bendigo Woolen Mills, which is on the other side of Australia. One of the few, if not the only, wool mills still running in Australia. And Bendigo is the town where the Australian Sheep and Wool Show is held. So people often refer to the Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show. But I bought this in 2016 when I was over there. And it's the Stella base, which is 50% bamboo, 50% wool in the black pearl colourway. So that's going to be my first colour. Then in the same base, I've got red coral. And then my edging also happens to be from Bendigo, but I think I bought this online. I didn't buy this in person. But this is the poppy red, and this is 100% bamboo. Very floppy. So, let me pick them all up if I can. That's going to be my colour order. So the main 2 there, followed by the bright red at the bottom, which I think is going to look really cool. And yeah, there's wool in these 2. I'm wiggling my finger, you can't see it. Wool in the top 2, and then the bottom is plain bamboo. So I think the drape is going to be beautiful on all of them, and I'm really, really happy with those colours because I do love my reds and my blacks and greys. Can you tell? So soft. I love knitting with bamboo. Just the drape. Ooh. So yes, as I said, that's as far as I've got. There'll be more next time, but I couldn't wait to cast on. It did come out a week or so ago, but this is the quickest I've been able to. Talking about the whole being able to, it's just all to do with life. Life. Okay, so I talked about the Melinda shawl cowl. Well, both, didn't I? I talked about the Melinda shawl, and now I'm going to talk more about the cowl. So this is the version I knit. So happy with it. And this is the version that the designer Vicky gave me at Christmas time. And just said, oh, it's a new design, didn't tell me what it was. So for a couple of months I was walking around with a Melinda shawl and I didn't even know it. Oh, here comes Smudgy again. He'd gone back to bed, but here he is. So this is the first prototype of the Melinda shawl. How cool is that to be able to show you? And, oh, hello, darling. Hi. What a good boy. Hello. Such a good boy. Such a good boy. You're just waking up, darling. You're just waking up. Oh, it's tough being a doggy. And you go back to bed and go to sleep so often. Such a good hello. Just a little bit smitten with my fur grandson. So, back to this, the Melinda shawl prototype. This is knit in Stroll fingering from Knit Picks, but Stroll hand painted, I think. And so I was talking about how the yarn I used for this one was a tighter spin and a bigger needle. So you can see on the eyelets on mine, you can the gaps between the sections, whereas on the prototype, the gaps are not as airy, which is just a good example of gauge and using different yarns and different needles so you can get different looks, both of which are wonderful. And yeah, I was, as I said, wearing this shawl for a couple of months before I knew what it was, because it didn't matter what it was. And it was actually when I reached for a lot because it was just nice and light, and I was talking about that edging before. I just like the way it sat flat. So yeah, I highly recommend this pattern. No, not least because, you know, it was so flattering to have a pattern designed for me. I'll link to the video that Vicky had actually put out when she released the pattern, where she talks about her design process and her thoughts, because that's really interesting. So I will link to that in the show notes. And in terms of prizes for this cowl, so the cowl is running, it was from the 14th of February, which was when the pattern was released, now to the 14th of May, because I thought I'd give everyone a long while because, you know, we've all got lots to knit. But hey, what's one more thing if you haven't already started? And we've got a lovely prize already donated, which is the High Tea with Jam Crumpets shawl by Jen Sheelan. Jen is so generous and gives us a lot of prizes for the podcast and always gives me a copy, which is so nice of her. So that is one of the prizes, and we've still got more prizes coming, so I'll show you as soon as those are ready. So do come and join us. There's a Ravelry thread. I'll link that below with the show notes. And there's already a few finished shawls in the thread. So do come and have a look, get some inspiration going, and come and join us. So we've got some prizes, and this is we've got our quarterly draw for the charity make-along. So that's a thread that will be running all year, and I'll draw prizes each quarter, and it'll be from the whole thread. So join in, just make something, so knit, crochet, sew, anything at all, for charity. Give us a photo of what you're doing, talk about the charity itself if you've got any info, and it's just a lovely place to go, and there's so much goodwill and joy in that thread. So go and have a look, even if you're not able to participate at the moment, which is fine. Go and have a look because it's a lovely thread to be in. But without further ado, we have so far 34 posts in the thread, and the winner for the first quarter draw was post number 12, who is Janet, Yarn Taxi Driver. Yay! Congratulations, Janet. Janet lives in Connecticut, and she sewed some little dresses, and they were made in honour of one of her in-laws who was actually born and raised in Perth, which is where I am from, and I am coming to you today and all the time from the podcast. So Janet, get in touch with me, and you have won a copy of the pattern Sock Yarn Scarf by the designer Anna Kuduja, and I think that'll be a great spring knit. It's quite airy and, yeah, with a lighter weight yarn. So Janet, let me know when you've seen this and I will get that pattern to you. So thank you to everyone who's been participating. Our other knit along make along that's just finished was our plan along, and that was to knit something from any of your New Year's plans or your Make 9 or any other list, or just something you planned to make because you knit it right then and there, which was fine. And it was great. People were doing things like, yeah, Make 9, there was a bingo, things for different podcasts. It was, yeah, really good fun, and I think people, you know, were able to tick things off their lists or just knit stuff. And isn't it, that's why we're all here, isn't it? Just knitting, crocheting, making, it's all good. So we had 122 posts in that thread, and we have 4 winners. So without further ado, again, post number 100, who was CG Knits, has won a copy of the Ursula's Path Cowl by Fiona Clark. Yay! Congratulations, CG Knits. Let me know when you've seen this. Post 59 was another winner, Sylvia 1002, who has won the Rustic Elegance Shawl by Jen Sheelan, who is also donating a prize to the Melinda Shawl Cowl. So yay, thank you, Sylvia. Number 45 was Handmade Studio 11, who has won the Penny Pearl Sweater by Victoria Zakanowicz, who designed the Melinda shawl. You see, everyone's connected. It's awesome. So yay, Handmade Studios 11. Let me know when you've seen this. And our final winner was number 38, Saratoga Knitting, Lisa, and she has won a project bag sewn just for the cowl by friend of the podcast, Autumn Cottington. So yay, thank you, Lisa. So everyone, let me know when you've seen this. Thank you to everyone else who entered. I'm sorry there's not a prize for everyone, but I hope that you enjoyed yourselves. I certainly did. It was great to see what everyone was making, as well as to work on my own Make 9 list, which has, while we're on it, gotten a little bit off track. I tagged a lot of things on on my Ravelry project wish list, or queue, sorry, not my wish list as such, with hashtag second Make 9 2019, and it's just most things are now tagged with second Make 9. So it's now seeming that my second Make 9 list is just whatever ends up being knit. So that's fine. I do want to definitely go back to my initial Make 9 list, because those were things that I definitely did want to knit, and it's not that I've gone off them, but it's just been, you know, ooh, shiny, ooh, my friend's released a pattern, ooh, ooh. Yeah, I'll get there. So when I showed my socks that I was knitting earlier, I mentioned I'd been in a 3 days of training, and that was a leadership course, but it was very much focused on self-awareness and emotional intelligence and all those sorts of things where you need to know yourself to be able to know others and to be able to lead others. So I am very interested in that sort of thing. So it was really interesting. We did a lot of work on habits and living your values and having a growth mindset and so many things. It was really, really interesting. And it tied in well with the several books that I've been reading, because I really like the self-improvement books, which, you know, sometimes I mention them on Instagram, but I always try and link them here for you because I want you to be able to enjoy them if that's something you're interested in. So I always listen to audiobooks, so I'll put links to everything in the show notes, but whenever I link things like that, I don't have any affiliations with Audible or any other websites. They're just ones that I use, that either that's where I got the book or just for the ease of linking something. So yeah, no affiliations, no kickbacks. You seek them where you will. So 2 that were sort of similar. One was called The Kindness Method, and that was by Shahroo Izadi. And Shahroo is a psychologist in the UK, and she works with a lot of people about breaking habits or substance misuse, that sort of thing. So her kindness method is about looking at ways to break habits or form new habits, but in a way that's kind to yourself, not in punishing. And it's really, really interesting. And she talks about sort of, yeah, the psychology of habit forming, which did tie in a lot to the training I was doing coincidentally. So that's been really interesting. And then the other, there's actually 2 others by the same person, by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, who's also from the UK, the 4-pillar plan and the stress solution. So he's a GP, and so he looks at the 4 pillars. I think it's sleep, food, movement, and a 4th one. Yes, I have read the book. I have listened to it, trust me. There's 4 things he talks about, all to do with holistic health. Yeah, maybe it was about reducing stress, because then his second book is The Stress Solution, where he looks more in depth at the stress part. We'll go with that. Anyway, very interesting books. I just can't remember. And yeah, both of these authors I heard on the Deliciously Ella podcast. So Deliciously Ella is a company and Ella Mills is the woman behind it. She does a lot of plant-based food, like that's her website and her business. I think she does a lot of healthy products that are available in the UK, sadly not in Australia. But yeah, the podcast Deliciously Ella is fantastic. I've always learned so much about just overall health, as well as plant-based eating as well. But don't let that put you off if you're not into plant-based eating. There's a lot of other interesting stuff there. But yeah, so had both of them on the Deliciously Ella podcast, sort out their books, and I'm so glad I did. They're really engaging and pitched at a level for everyone, so it's something that everyone can apply to their life. So I really want to listen to them again, actually, to sort of really solidify the messages and work on forming better habits. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been lovely to catch up with you after so long. I won't bother saying, I hope it's less time next time. No, I won't bother saying that because who knows. I hope it is though. Anyway, I'm going to wear my Melinda shawl today, which is going to be lovely because we've gone into autumn here, so the mornings are definitely chillier. We've still had some very hot days, but yeah, we're getting there. We're getting to chillier weather, so we can wear more knitwear, which is nice. If you've got anything you'd like to chat with me about, please come and either make a comment below on YouTube or come to the Ravelry thread. I really love hearing from you. It makes it a nice conversation because I love reaching out, so I love to hear back and have that conversation. So do let me know what you're knitting on today. And like last time, what are you doing while you're watching this episode, or might be in several parts? Who knows? Let me know. So thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and happy crafting. Bye bye.